Hey, hello everybody. Today I will cover for you chapter 11, and specifically we're going to cover menu driven programs. And these are our learning objectives. So we're going to talk about what are menu driven programs, then how would we go about modularizing our menu driven program, then how would we use a loop to repeat the menu, and about multiple level menus, and then I'll show you how to write a menu driven program in Python. So we've all seen menus at least once somewhere. Right now, almost every website that you go on will have some kind of a drop down menu or something similar. Probably the website that you're using for your education right now has a menu. It's just on the side. It's a side menu that has some options for you to pick from. So, what is a menu? Think of it as a list of operations that are displayed to the user by your program, in which that same user can select what it wants the program to do, which operation needs to be performed. And the example that we have right here, the mailing list menu, is just your most basic text menu that can be. So it's just a little menu that's gonna ask you, show you some options, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's just gonna ask you to enter your selection based on the number that you enter right here in this field. Some action will be performed, either adding a name to the list, deleting a name from the list, changing a name, or printing the name in the list. So it's all gonna depend on the number that you pick, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So how would we go about designing our menu, right? The code for our menu. It's all based on decision structures. Nothing complicated. Literally, it's just if, then, else statements on top of each other over and over and over. And you can use a case structure. Remember, we covered case structures that can be easier to follow the flow of your program. But again, it's all up to you. You can as well just make a bunch of nested if then else statements, as long as your program works. So since our menu driven program should be capable of performing many tasks, many different tasks I would say, then we should modularize it. And how will we go about it? All you have to do is just write a module for each function that you want your program to have and your menu option to have, and you just write a module for it. And then whenever that option is called, you just, inside your program, you make a call to that module that is going to do everything for you. Because sometimes, again, remember why we write modules: to make our lives easier and to make our code simpler to understand, right, for everybody we're working with. And remember when I told you that sometimes when you're coding, you will have to code repetitive structures, you will have to write a lot of code that's redundant. This is where our modules come in. Sometimes whenever we pick some option from our menu, options can be almost the same. They might be very similar. That's where modules come in. Instead of typing the same code for each function of each option that your menu is providing to the user, instead of doing that, you will just call your module. You will write your module, you'll write whatever it should be doing, and then you will just call that module whenever it's needed for each option of your menu. So it's just gonna make your life easier. Now, here is a little flowchart to show you how your modularized menu-driven program can be operating. So as you can see here, we have our main, then we're declaring an integer called menu selection, then there is a module called display menu, and then whatever menu selection our user enters here, right? Because it's an integer. So we have our 1, 2, and 3 options. So whenever user types 1 right here in our menu selection, then we would our program would perform this module, inches to centimeters. Now, if our user types 2, our program would perform a module called feet to meters. And then if the user types 3, our program will perform miles to kilometers. So just a little conversion program, and based on what our user types, 1, 2, or 3, a different type of conversion will be performed. Now, most menu-driven programs usually use a loop to repeatedly display the menu after a certain task has been performed, just to allow the user to choose a different option if they want to, without having to restart the whole program from the beginning. So because of that, your menu can contain an option to end the program. As you can see here, we have, if our user types 4, we're just going to end the program. And if the user types 1, 2, or 3, we're going to do some kind of conversion. And here's the flowchart to see how it would look like. Again, the same program that I just showed you. The only thing that we added is a loop that's going to take us all the way back, unless our user types 4. Remember that the exclamation point sign and an equal sign equals not. So if the menu selection is not 4, then we're gonna just make a loop and display our menu to the user again, and our user can pick something different. However, if our menu selection will equal 4, as you can see here, false, if this one is false, then we're just gonna end our program as a whole. So this is how your loop will look like if you wanted to display your menu repeatedly to the user. Multiple level menus, very useful thing. You have probably seen a multiple level menu in your life at least a couple of times. And what that is just a menu that has one or more submenus. And that's where the term main menu comes from. Whenever you have a multiple level menu, you will have main menu and submenus of that main menu. Now, why would we do that? And let me show you exactly why we would do that. So as you can see here, we have this very long menu with up to 10 options for the user to pick and process a sale, process a return, add a record to the inventory file, and all of these multiple different options for us to pick from. However, what we can do, we can convert this menu to multiple smaller menus. As you can see here, this would be our main menu. So what user wants to do, process a sale or a return, or update the inventory file, print an inventory report, or exit the program. As you can see here, we have print an inventory list report, print a list of inventory items by cost, and all of these can be combined into one. So what we did right here, we just basically split this menu into a bunch of submenus, and it's easier for user to understand, and it's easier for user to follow and pick whatever they want. Instead of reading and going through all of these 10 options, user just needs to go through 3 options at first. After they read this, they can pick whatever option works for them, and then after they will be taken to a menu that they picked from here, to a submenu. So as you can see here, we have a submenu of sales and returns, so you can process a sale, process a return, or go back to the main menu. And then we have update inventory file menu, and we have inventory report menu. So why is this useful? Again, we don't want our user, whenever they're using our program, to spend so much time reading all of the options that they have. Instead, we want to present them with a very useful UI and let them spend as less time as possible on reading what's in front of them. So because of that, it's a wonderful idea to split your menu in multiple menus into multiple menus and let the user save their time and efforts. Now, here is a little Python example for you. As you can see here, we're displaying our menu. It's just regular print statements. So we have 1, convert inches to centimeters, convert feet to meters, and 3, convert miles to kilometers. After that, we ask our user for input. Here's how we do it. We create a variable called menu selection, and then we ask the user for input, enter your selection, and we are converting this to integer, because remember, if we just put input, our computer will think that a user entered a string, and in this case, we want it to be an integer for future our if statements, for our future if statements. Now, after that, we have to validate the menu selection. Another very important thing to do. If the user types anything else than 1 or 3, 1, 2, or 3, so less than 1, or if our menu selection is greater than 3, then we would tell the user that is an invalid selection, and then we would tell them enter 1, 2, or 3. So we're kind of making them more familiar with our program when we're telling them, instead of just make your selection, we're telling them you have to enter 1, 2, or 3. We're explaining it more to the user. That is a perfect example of validation of your menu selection. And after that, we just do whatever our user asked us to do. So if menu selection equals 1, we are doing conversion from inches to centimeters. You can see right here, this is the code for your conversion. Else if, this is how you would use your else if in Python, elif, our menu selection equals 2, then we're going to convert feet to meters. And then we're asking again the same, enter the number of feet that you would want to convert, then we're converting it, and then we're printing that is equal to whatever meters it is equal to. And our last one is going to be elif menu selection equals 3. And then we're converting miles to kilometers. Again, we're asking the user for miles, enter the number of miles, and then we're converting it right here with the little calculation. And then we're printing the answer to the user. Here's the example of your output to this program, but I walked you through it just here. So if you want to look for yourself, this is how your program will look like with certain selections. This is pretty much what I had for today for chapter 11. Hope you had fun, and I'll see you in the next video.